Top of the morning, fight fans. This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Q&A. We have a Q&A question about Errol Spence and myself. And this is from Amanchi Mnegmego. Okay, and this was about an hour ago. Okay. And this is what Amanchi had to say. He said, "Man, Kurt, you gotta stop basing Spence or basking Spence with these low blows. You like Bud over Spence, and that has clouded your opinions. No way Spence is faking. If this was happening to Bud, you wouldn't even give any of these opinions." Those are the words of Amanchi. First off, it's not really a low blow. And I didn't say Spence was faking. Okay. Obviously he had some type of eye injury, more information that has piled up on that. He was, according to like Scants Rants, another follower of the channel, they found that, cut or whatever, damage in his eye to his retina in some type of examination. Okay, they found it in his eye, and therefore, that's why he had to have emergency surgery, which, he's supposed to have emergency surgery. We've seen him over, and, with a patch over his eye, which I'm going to counter later on a video about that specifically. But he says, you like Bud over Spence, and that clouded your opinions. Well, it doesn't mean that I dislike Errol Spence. I don't like what happened in the scenarios. I mean, it's a lot of stuff I don't know about, but I think based on the face-to-face interaction between Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, when they were face-to-face, it let me know Al Heyman had a lot of power and a lot of decision-making over who he fights. And everybody that he said Al Heyman said that he would fight, he fought, except Terrence Crawford. So, it's not the fact that I don't like Errol Spence. I just think a lot of those fighters over there, they don't pick their own fights. They may have certain picks of only certain fighters. Like, you can fight these three, but don't ask me about anyone else, because that's out of the negotiation table. That's off the negotiation table. So I think that's one of the problems with PBC and Fox. And since Errol Spence is there, Errol Spence is under that same lineup. Okay, so it ain't about liking Spence. I just think those fighters over there do more of this than this. And, in the fights that they fight, yeah, they make good money for the people they're fighting. Okay, but they don't make money on or anywhere near the money that they could fight if they were their own independent agents. Like some like Canelo is, and like Manny Pacquiao was, and like Terrence Crawford should be. And then when you're talking about like him over, and like, do I think Terrence Crawford could beat Errol Spence? I do. That doesn't mean I dislike him less. I just think that it's more of control on that side. So, anytime you are really controlled, but you're talking like you ain't, that's a problem to me, because now you're perpetrating a fraud. Now you're saying something that is not entirely true. You're saying 70-30, and now you're saying 60-40, or you're saying 20 or 80 or whatever we give you. Those type of things I don't care for, especially when that fight may not even be on the table anyway. So maybe that's the, incentive to be talking all that. At the end of the day, you're just saying that because that fight's not even available for you. That's the real truth of the matter. But as far as Errol Spence goes, he's a good fighter. I think he will give anybody a good fight. Do I think he's a great fighter? No. I mean, he hasn't fought enough people to prove he's a great fighter. Is he a good fighter? Yes, because he's beating guys like Sean Porter, but we know Sean Porter's beatable. How about someone that hasn't been beaten? He chased Keith Thurman for a very long time, and he never got that fight. Okay, now, Pacquiao is the man to beat. because he's from a whole nother era and he did spectacular things in his era, and he's still doing spectacular things as of 2 years ago. Okay, so yeah, he's the guy to go after, but then he's the guy that has the less risk because he has the more miles on his engine. All right, so, to clear that up with Errol Spence shows confidence. He wanted to fight Gennady Golovkin. Now we find out Gennady Golovkin really don't want to fight anybody of that's dangerous. You wait all year to fight one guy at the very end of the year. I mean, I don't buy that, so he lost credibility. But Errol Spence said he would stop him. He's at every Canelo fight. He showed interest in fighting Canelo. You know what I mean? But then who has tried to get Canelo on their platform? PBC Fox. So, that lines up with what they will allow Errol Spence to do again. So, and last of it, he said, if this was happening to Bud, you wouldn't even give any of these opinions. Well, yeah, I would. Because, see, we don't know what or when did that injury happen or occur. We don't know when that happened. We don't know anything about the injury. We just know he found out he had one. And if it did happen from the wreck, like a lot of people say, it happened from the wreck. Well, if it happened from the wreck, that means he's fought Danny Garcia with this damn thing. That means he was in preparation to fight Manny Pacquiao for this thing. And if that's the case, you have to really look at, well, what doctors were you going to when they examined you when you had this supposed cut? Unless it just got there doing sparring, and in that case, never mind. But if it's Terrence Crawford and he had a wreck like that, and it happened during a wreck, like a lot of people are speculating, a lot of people are saying that, well, in that case, they would have caught that then, and he would have got that surgery then. So, but the thing is, we don't know when he got it, so don't tell me if I would have thought any different from Terrence Crawford. No, I would have thought the same. Like, well, damn, if you had an injury that needed to be done and they just found out about it, that just carelessness of the people that examined you the first time. And look, listen, people, doctors make mistakes too because they're only human. They're not masters of nothing. They're practitioners of their craft. That don't mean they're like masters, like they've perfected anything. It could happen. Let me share a story with you guys. I had an old lifelong friend I grew up with, and his son. He's a lot older than me, but his son was maybe 10 years older than I was. Younger than I was, and he caught cancer. He had cancer in his brain. He had cancer in his abdomen area, and it was bad. And it, when they diagnosed him, the first thing the doctor said is, well, if you would have came 5 years ago, this would have not even been an issue and you would have lived through a lot of this stuff. But now it's been 5 years later. And the doctor 5 years ago, because he went to the doctor 5 years ago, okay, and he overlooked it. So if he would have went to the doctor that diagnosed him, maybe his son would have been alive today. Saying all that to say this, people. Sometimes even if a doctor looks at something, don't mean that he catches it right away. So people make mistakes. So even if he did, it's not to blame Errol Spence for that. And I'm not doing that at all. I'm just saying there is a motive. If you were investigating, there is a motive in play on why he would do that. That's all I'm saying. But I could really care nonetheless, because Errol Spence, is getting something that he needs to be repaired, if that's the case, or he's working on a master plan with his advisor, either one or the other. But anyway, that's just me counterpunching this Q&A session, You guys tell me what you think about this video. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.